The internationally acclaimed Australian Dance Theatre is bringing to the Frankston Arts Centre Be Yourself Redux. Quite an interesting title for a compelling work. The Associate Artistic Director, Elizabeth Old, is on the line to tell us all about that and a bit about herself too. Elizabeth, nice to have you on the program today. How are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you, yes.
Nice to have you with us today.
Yeah, it's lovely to be with you. We're really looking forward to coming down to Frankston. We've been planning this trip for quite a while, so actually I'm currently speaking to you from Toowoomba up in Queensland.
Wow, what's the weather like in Toowoomba?
It's a little bit chilly,
Is it?
to be honest, yes, but it's not raining, so that's a good thing.
Well, you'll feel at home down here in Melbourne because we've got 11 degrees today.
Oh, okay, lovely.
So, yeah, it'll be great. What does an artistic director do?
An artistic director choreographs work, directs work, and then guides the company's artistic vision. So kind of situates the company within their artistic vision.
Rather an important role, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a lovely role to have. It's a very defining role. So our artistic director, Gary Stewart, he has really brought about a very defining kind of style of dance that's quite well known now in Australia.
You came to Australia and went to Adelaide Performing Arts, I believe, down there. You joined the Australian Dance Theatre in 1984, so you've had quite an association. But then you've travelled the world doing various artistic works too, haven't you?
Yes, I have. So I actually began my dance career with Australian Dance Theatre, which was a great place to start. But as you can probably hear from my accent, I'm English as well as Australian. So I've spent most of my dancing career in London with a company there called Rambert, which tour all over the world. And that's just been, a wonderful opportunity for me to travel and perform in some of the most amazing theatres that you could imagine, really. So, yeah, but I've made the choice to move back to Adelaide 10 years ago, and I've been travelling with ADT since then.
Elizabeth, you were studying law in England.
Yeah.
Why the change then into the artistic world?
When you reach the end of your dance career, it's quite a difficult time to figure out what to do next. And I've always been interested in law. It exists in language, which is fascinating. And I thought that I might go into some sort of top-level management arts career where a law degree would be very useful. However, whilst I was studying law, I was invited to the Royal New Zealand Ballet to remount a work on that company that had been made on me initially. And whilst I was there in the studio with the dancers, I just began to think, this is really more my world. So I ended up going back to Rambert Dance Company at that point as their rehearsal director. And I really haven't looked back since then. It was a good choice to make.
That's a lovely story.
It's hard to leave the arts when you've been in the arts all your life.
Most certainly. Longevity of a dancer. You mentioned there about having a career beyond dancing. What is the longevity of a dancer? It
depends on the company to some degree and how physical that company is. It also depends a little bit on the personality of the dancer. But generally I'd say sort of mid to late 30s. Some people wish for a change before that, but one can dance until, mid to late 30s, I would say.
And then the body wears out, I suppose.
Your body, and also you get fed up with people telling you what to do all the time.
Really? Yeah.
It's a hard job. It's like being an elite athlete. It's very similar in that regard. So
a lot of discipline, I'd imagine.
A lot of discipline, a lot of training. You really have to focus your entire kind of mind, body and soul on the career while you're doing it.
Elizabeth, tell me about the current production that's coming down this neck of the woods. It's got an interesting title, Be Yourself Redux. What's it all about?
Be Yourself is a piece about us. So it's a piece about what makes a human being as opposed to anything else. The piece presents in two parts. The first part really looks at the phenomenology of the body. So the body and the fascinating world within us that we know something about but not all that much about, and have some control over but not much control over. And then it also digs deep into the world of emotions and how we react and respond to each other.
That's interesting, isn't it? I see in your program you got a workshop the night before
Yes.
and then the production. What's the workshop going to do?
The workshop will be working with a group of young people, and generally speaking, they are given a contemporary dance warm-up, so they're put through some of the kind of rigors of our training program, and then we teach them certain parts of the work itself and talk to them about how the work was made, so they get a real sense of why those steps are in the piece.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, it helps them to relate to the work, particularly if they can understand sort of what it might feel like to attempt to dance on some of the steps, but also why those particular dance moves are in the work at all. Some people describe Be Yourself as saying it looks rather dangerous. Some of the dance moves are quite unexpected and surprising and explosive. So I think it's good for students and young people, or anyone really, just to understand why that vocabulary is used in the work.
So when it's Be Yourself, it's you doing what you feel.
Yes, it's you being you. Yeah, that's what the piece is about, really. So it's an easy subject to relate to, but obviously the subject matter is vast.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And how many performers with you?
We have 9 performers, so that's 8 dancers and an actor.
Right.
And then we are also touring, obviously, with a crew.
Tell me about the crew. You must have a big company there then, if you've got 9 plus a crew and yourself, of course. That's quite logistically, I suppose, time-consuming and pretty hard to organise, isn't it?
It's logistically time-consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of work that goes into just getting a piece on stage. I was talking to a young group of people here up in Toowoomba yesterday about the lighting. I was saying it's a little bit like the soundtrack to a movie. You kind of don't realise it's there, but then if you take it away, you really realise its absence.
Yes,
and,
yes.
you know, before we open a show, we can spend up to 4 days just in the theatre working on the lighting. So that in itself is an enormous component of the work.
Yes, it can be subtle, can't it? But it's so effective because it can add that mood to a production that you really need to have there to get the message across.
Absolutely. It adds a real sense of drama.
Yes. And I like the way you compare that to a soundtrack, because it's very, very much the same, isn't it? You take a soundtrack away, you take the lighting away, what do you got left? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
Yeah, kind of cold.
Absolutely. You're down at Frankston on September the 8th with your 8 dancers and an actor. What does the actor do? Does he just bring things together?
The actor describes some of the finer details to do with the inner workings of the body and the science of emotions. So the things about the body that dance moves can't really convey in detail. So the actor has some extraordinary text, which if you were a medical scientist, you would understand every single word. For me, it's just a physical feat that the actor can actually remember this text that to me doesn't make much sense at all, but they describe in great detail what's going on inside our bodies.
Well, it's on September the 8th at the Frankston Arts Centre. You can phone the theatre and book there. Go along and see these people because it sounds very, very interesting. Be yourself. At the age of 70, I'm not going to be on the stage. I'll leave it up to you younger people. But it sounds fascinating, it really does. September the 8th, and go along and support these people, the Australian Dance Theatre. Elizabeth, thank you for your time today, and I hope you get a fantastic audience at Frankston.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Take care. Bye-bye to you.
Bye.